Hello, my name's Karen Loisy.
Hi there, and my name is Chris Loizu, and we are here today to give you a candid insight behind the scenes of how we created Heroes of Thargos, the card game. So we'll be taking you through a series of some of the backstory to the game and some things we've been through to get where we are today, and hopefully it'll be very interesting to see how we did things. So just starting out, Karen has been helping me with a lot of the design, notably she's the webmaster for Ghost Empire, and also has been involved in a lot of the other design work around the rules and some of the cards, and you'll see some of the stuff we'll be talking about. But really the idea is to give you that very clear idea of how much has gone into this, and also the impact people have had working with us, going through the reviews, play tests and so on, and hopefully that'll come across very clearly. So just kind of going through some of the things we've been working on. We had a series of reviews. I'd like to thank all the reviewers for getting involved from the beginning.
Thank you.
And so really just Krista from Cardboard Cantina, she went for a review with a local gaming group in the US, and a lot of what came out is that they enjoyed the game, but she felt that they missed out on some of the lore, some of the setting, and she was a little bit frustrated and not getting into playing the story mode. So we'll be addressing some of that, and I have to say that's mutual frustration because it's one of the biggest strengths of the game. So we'll be addressing that hopefully over the course of the this kind of interview. And she touched on also the notion of deck construction, which for some gamers can be a bit of a turn off. It can be quite involved. But I have to stress that the game comes with downloadable pre-constructed deck lists for casual gamers, but also all the way through to pretty comprehensive deck construction. But we'll address that as well. Other things that kind of came out, and actually recently, in the Leisure Games YouTube coverage of this week's Kickstarters by, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Chris Mewson, also known as Zex on Board Game Geek. It was interesting that he doesn't seem to be too much into deck construction, and fully respect and understand that, but actually gave me the opportunity to clarify that the card game itself is also very much accessible to casual gamers with this pre-constructed deck list. So you can then tweak your decks as a result of that deck list and then get more familiar with the decks and so on. So thanks, shout out there for Chris for giving us a bit of coverage there, which is appreciated. And basically, some of the other things you'll be covering as well is around the reviews. We'll be touching on the story mode. It really brings out the lore of the game, and is one of the biggest strengths of the game as we've been finding it. And just in terms of some other feedback we had from Dave Fox from Board's Eye View, I'd like to thank him as well. He felt there was a lot of nostalgia there. That was his feeling playing the game. But equally, a lot of different gaming options. He did, however, feel that the cards were quite dark.
Yeah. And at the beginning, they were. I mean, when we produced our first set, we realised that they were way too dark, and so that's been addressed with the newer versions. So yeah, that was one thing that was taken on board.
Exactly, because I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but GameCrafter, they're great at what they do. They take RGB files, and RGB files look fantastic on the screen, and Ryan, the artist, and when we get the artwork, it looks really fantastic. We're really happy with the artwork. But once you upload the RGB files and you get the actual cards sent back, we have some examples actually of some of the cards.
I mean, here you can see one of the first kind of like character cards that we had produced there, and you can see the image is quite dark. Okay, and this is a more updated version. Okay, here we go.
That's right.
So here you can see, obviously the design's changed as well. We've updated it, which we'll talk about later.
Exactly.
But yeah, so let's just compare them side by side.
Yeah.
And you can see.
And it's still work in progress, because when we go for the full print run, we'll be in CMYK format, and we'll be getting proofing sheets of the final card. So there's still some work to be done there in terms of the luminosity or the light in the cards. So other things that kind of came out were things around the drop shadow and the titles, some of the wording, some of the fonts.
Font size, yeah, things like that. I mean, we've actually decided to remove the drop shadow. I mean, it can look quite nice in some ways, but actually it just ended up making that size font too blurry, in fact. So we've removed that. It's a lot clearer now. And we've also standardized the font size within the text, within the main part of the card. So
that's right.
Yeah, that's a lot more standard now and should be more visible.
And that was picked up by Dave Fox again in the Board's Eye View review. Then we had a really we did a lot of playtests when you put a game together like this, and starts off with family, with friends, and a shout out there for Theo, my nephew, who's been involved in masses of the kind of back work behind this in terms of the first series, the first design of the first prototype of the cards. Huge amount of work, hours and hours and weekends doing that. So thanks to Theo for helping us with that. Also playtests. And then you go further afield with friends, playtests through Tabletop Simulator. We did quite a few. And then you go further afield with the blind playtests and other people who are not familiar with the setting, the game, or anything else. And then you really get into the nitty-gritty of the playtests. Yeah. And I've got to have a bit of a shout out there for Brendan McFadden, Evan Halbert from Portland Gamecraft, and Joshua Burrell from Logan Chops Reviews and Previews. We had a playtest session with those three gentlemen, and it was without a doubt the best playtest session I had.
It's really useful, wasn't it, for you?
It was fantastic. I was really buzzing after that because people will know, and you probably come across some of the videos, I can talk for hours about the setting, hours and hours. And I have to say, and thanks even, you did remind me we're on a playtest and not a sales pitch for my game. So we got into the playtest. We played a session of the game, and what came out of that was really so valuable. The head-to-head game with the 4 tracks is very solid. It's a very solid game mechanic. It's a lot of fun. But in some ways, if it's just confined to that's all the game was, it's limiting in terms of getting to discover the setting. Yeah. And even he could see that there was a lot behind the game, and he was kind of frustrated. It came across in his feedback notes to me that he wants to kind of know more. He didn't really care about the characters too much. You know, there wasn't a lot of differentiation and so on. So actually we set out to write all the character backstories. Yeah,
and that information, all those character backgrounds, an insight to that can be now seen on the website. So you can discover more about the characters that are within the game. So yeah, we've done that.
So that's up there. There's backstories to the characters. You understand their motives, why they are trying to set out to be heroes and gain renown. Which is a key kind of concept of the game, and loads of other things came out of that. The card design. I mean, if we look at the mission cards, for example, originally what we had here. You had these are the victory points here. Now, where you can see this, and then you had the stats you need to win the card, but actually.
They didn't make sense when they were stacked up. It was very difficult to actually see what stats you actually had. Exactly,
and actually some of the feedback from the playtests, even Brendan and Joshua, were to just make sure these things line up. So basically, you can then stack up the stats like this. Really straightforward stuff. But when you're involved from a day-to-day perspective, it just doesn't jump out. And that's just one example. There are other examples as well where, talking about the lore, the tracks, is slightly limiting. So what happened then is, how do we then take this game mechanic and then do away with the tracks? And that's something else which was picked up in another review, where there was a bit of frustration that players were kind of stuck in these tracks and not a lot of interaction across the tracks. Story mode blows that completely open. Yeah. There are no tracks anymore, and we'll explain a bit more about how story mode works, but we took that on board as well. Some of the other things that came out of the playtest, if I look at also...
Not accessible for people with that are colourblind.
That's right.
Okay, that was something that came out. So again, it was something that we took on board, and we actually then decided to include symbols so that the cards were easily identifiable. So for example, action cards, you can see here within the skull, we've now got an A. Okay, the same with the lasting cards. Okay, we've now got the L. Okay, whereas before obviously that didn't exist. Okay, here we go. And then with the character cards, both sides, okay, because the cards are an injured side as well, okay. We've obviously now got a C there. And then finally for the mission cards, okay, we've got the victory points, okay. There we go. So all of the cards now are easily identifiable, okay.
That's right, and this was actually a result of, I joined one of the Facebook groups, actually called, I can read it here, Association of Colorblind Gamers for Board Game Creators and Players, which Thomas Covert as administrator. I posted some sample of the cards up there. We had some feedback, and as a result, we modified the cards. And this is something also which was picked up in, I don't remember which review it was now. I think it was Bob Nolan's review around accessibility. Something we're really hot on. We really want to make sure our game is accessible as possible. That was another driver in the things we changed in the game design.
Yeah.
And just kind of coming back to the playtest, what else came out of the playtest? I mean, the lore of Cursed Empire is very solid. There are absolutely masses of material background. There's 2,000 pages in print, and you have the setting. And you have the setting. You have the map, the environment, and cities, and so on. And actually, feedback again from Evan again was, Chris, you have all this great setting. Where exactly? What about the maps? What about where things are located? Where's the kind of context? Put these things in context. So we've gone one step further. You now have the poster maps as an add-on. You can then mark out where you've completed missions, and just then zooming into that kind of adventure setting, you then have
kind of
city maps, and the city maps. What happens in story mode? You then end up laying out the cards on the map where the adventures take place, where the missions take place. So no longer tracks.
Yeah.
You move around the city with your character party. You can use markers, dice, miniatures, whatever you like, meeples, and you go around and you co-locate where things are happening, and you do some scenarios in different orders. So it completely changes the whole game feeling, and really becomes like a mini RPG out of a card game. So that was one of the ideas of that. And once again, some of those playtests, and that one I mentioned in particular, was a complete light bulb moment. You know, it made a massive difference. Just in terms of, we've got some notes. Obviously, there's a lot of things trying to cover. In terms of some of the other comments we had about the design of the cards, you know, once again there was some feedback about the card design, the layout, and you know, it's always a bit tricky when someone's put a lot of effort into things. And once again, shout out for my nephew Theo, who was heavily involved in that with us. But we had this feedback to kind of look at tweaking the design, where things were on the card, the visibility for the opposing player on the opposite side of the table.
Yeah.
And as a result, Joshua Burrell introduced me to Shane Burrell, his brother, who did a really good job at redesigning the cards. And there's still a work in progress, you know. So we've gone one step further, and we looked at these things together, Karen, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. I mean, it's like, you know, because our artwork, all the artwork, we love it, obviously. But when you look at the cards, obviously, you know, it's a tiny little space there where we can show that off. So again, we're looking at maybe, you know, redesigning the cards so that you see more of the artwork. Okay, so there you go, and I'll just show you.
And here's the card that goes with it.
Okay, so yeah, so making it more three-dimensional, really. We want the characters to come out the cards. But it's interesting because, you know, obviously everybody's going to have a preference. I mean, but there you go. So we are
exactly.
kind of like, you know, looking at, you know, always looking for ways to kind of improve things or make things maybe a little bit special.
And these are two designs. So, for example, what Karen's done here, you know, she's now making some of the visual effects or some of the artwork pop out from the frame.
Yeah.
No borders, the yellow borders. There's different things we can do. So, as part of the Kickstarter, when we say get involved in the creative process, you know, we can still tweak some things. We can still change some things before we go to press. We go to print. So this is truly an opportunity for you guys to come in as our backers, say, you know what, we'd like to look at this, or we could do a special edition. We may even look at that for the Kickstarter. But there's still scope to modify some of the card layout, to look at the rules, again, the PDF of the rules, and comment on that, if this was not clear to me, or have you thought about a better index or something. You can still have an impact. You really can. And that's the point we want to emphasize. The artwork is very much nearly there. The game design is there. Story mode's there. And then I have to kind of look at in terms of what else we've covered. We've had some great interviews with a great podcast with Patrick Hemper from Level Up Board Game Podcast, where he is a, dare I say, what used to be a pretty hardcore Magic the Gathering card gamer, and he saw the potential. He really enjoyed the scope of the game. He can see from deck construction point of view, you can do quite a lot of stuff with that. But also he got a very strong sentiment, a very strong feeling that there was a lot of background behind it, and it'll start to come through. So he felt that very strongly. I have to say, a bit of a disclaimer: some people who have felt the strength of the background is because they felt probably they passed spent much too much time with me on a few calls and interviews where I try and convey that. And of course, the game has to hold its own, which is something we're really working on. Also, Bob Nolan from Tabletop United, he also did a great, really spent a lot of time obviously reviewing the game, a lot of feedback on the game itself. He liked the fact you have this double side, so we said on the back of the character card there's an injured side on the flip side.
Okay, to show you that one again. Okay.
That's right. So the stats change. So when certain things happen in the game, the character can get injured and flips over. The stats are then weakened. But sometimes, and this is quite fun, the flip side releases a different power, a different trait, a different attribute. So sometimes it can be good to be back against the wall, up against great danger as a character, and you'll release other in-game impacts. So a lot of fun with that. But that's something that was picked up there again. And really, one of the kind of summary points from Bob was around the fact that if you like deck construction, you like strategy games, solo play, he was interested in more about story mode. He felt it was for players who would like that normally. We had a great interview with the guys from Kicking Tables, and
lovely.
Sean and Tycho had a really, really good session with them, and certainly invite to watch that video as well, where they got to learn a lot more about the background, where the game came from, and have a lot of fun in designing it. But also a bit of a disclaimer: I was asked to mention my favourite card, one of my favourite cards in the game, and I jumped onto the Manticore card, which is a really cool action card. I actually forgot somehow.
I'm in it. I'm in the game. Okay, and my character card. I have a character, and and she's there, and I overheard this conversation, and and no. I wasn't his favourite card, but I should have been. So
we'll have to rectify that one on the record. But just to really let you know, we went from these
this is where we started.
Playtest prototypes.
Word.
We played a long time on that, and my poor niece and nephews tried to get their head around the game with the first iteration of the rules, with these cards, which were not fantastic, with our playmat at the time.
Yeah,
which is fabulous. Which was.
Really?
Which was really, really very high tech indeed. Yeah. This is a 3-player one, very exciting and very well designed.
Yeah.
And then we moved on to, then obviously we started doing our own print and play.
Yeah, with backgrounds, backdrops, and.
So the print and play.
This is obviously just a copy. The right way around.
Yeah,
exactly.
So print and play there,
okay.
And then all the way through to this really, which you've probably seen already a few times, but the.
Okay.
Battle mat, which is
there we go.
It's the ultimate way of laying out your
really
game.
Nice.
So really, it's come on a long, long way. The same goes to the rules. There've been multiple iterations. As I said before, we've had great support also from Duncan Wilson, and Pete Dixon.
Thank you.
We've spent a lot of time on Discord discussing the game, discussing the rules, going through them, fine-tuning them, rewriting them, clarifying them, working on the glossary. Then they worked on the solo play modes, and there are multiple modes, and got some really good input and some suggestions for the story mode as well. So it's been an absolutely massive team effort from multiple people, and I hope not forgetting anybody. We've had Chaz involved on the music side as well, composing music for the video. Nikita did the video for us.
Yeah.
Ryan was the artist. Tim Tulin does the maps, the cartography, and the maps of the game. Brian Steele we mentioned. Kev Dern, Max in the background, some other guys in the background as well, part of the 3rd edition RPG, so I'm not going to say too much at this stage, but that'll be next. But really just, it's come a long way, and, it's just been a massive thank you to everybody involved, and from the beginning.
That was a massive thank you, again.
including my wife, has been absolutely fantastic and been very patient. We've set up a makeshift studio at home, and she's going nuts because there's backdrops everywhere and all sorts of things lying around.
I have a house behind this somewhere, but it's okay. It's good.
So it's a complete mess, but it's there, and it's evolving, and certainly running this Kickstarter campaign is we're really enjoying it. We're enjoying doing the updates, the content.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoy it. We hope you share it, and you can see how much passion, love has gone into this, and effort, tears and sweat. But there's still scope to develop things, and it's a little teaser here, floating around here. Anyway, that's just put that
what
out
was
there.
That?
I don't know, no clue, no clue what that was. And yeah, once again, another thing before we forget, and obviously you're still completely glued to this. So, box design, packaging. This is not the definitive box design. We're still now in a position to actually change that as well. So once again, there's still scope. We've had some people vote on different covers, different box art. There's also back to that somewhere here, somewhere there. But
Here you go. Here's one that's packaged.
There we are. So with the two faces, the evil darkened from the south and the northern Imperial Knight. But there's still scope. You see, this is the thing. This is the beauty of Kickstarter. This is how we see it, to actually build a community around our game, but also for you guys to have, give us the feedback.
Constructive criticism.
Yeah, we're really open to any feedback at all to make the game a better game. But we're really happy with what we have, where we got so far after 14 months. It's a huge amount of work. And, and I'm just going to flip the notes if we've got anybody, or in terms of everything we said we'd cover. I think we pretty much, we thanked everybody there. But
you know who you are. If you have contributed, and if you have had discussions with Chris, and you talked about the game, about ways to improve it, then you are part of that big thank you. So if we have forgotten your names, then you haven't been forgotten.
That's right. And please back our project.
Yeah, please. Because we want to share this with everybody, and we love it, and and it's it's our passion.
Absolutely. And just one word on the pledges. You'll see in there's some pledges around designing your own character, which is very exciting.
Very.
There are a few surprises coming up about designing characters. Not in this episode, in a future one, but you can design your own character with a creative team. That's myself and Ryan, the other people. And also there is a pledge where you can spend a day with us in
our crazy world.
Exactly, and design an expansion for the card game itself. You'll get the expansion as part of that, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So you actually become part of the design team for the day. And
come and join us.
Exactly, and once things open up with obviously the current situation we all face, and we wish everybody out there to stay safe and stay healthy. To get back out in the convention circuit and actually meet you in person. We'd love to do that, and and maybe we combine that then. So we'll see when logistically it's best to do that as part of that pledge as well. So really, once again, thanks for all the support, and thank you for our backers, all those who've already crossed through the portal to Thargos.
Thank you.
It's very much appreciated. And thank you very much for you're interested in our little game.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.